Remember the babies? They found a place to put them. Now they're growing up. And they want to come home. And they're hungry. It's Alive Part 3, Island of the Alive. Don't see it alone.
Hey, yo, welcome, yo, to Movie Humpers.
Hello.
I'm Bob Sham.
I'm Angela.
The sounds you hear may be dogs.
Yo.
And it is Halloween Humpfest. We're doing a horror drop every weekday.
Yes.
And this week we are now at the end of Larry Cohen's It's Alive trilogy. Now, you're a fan of the It's Alive cinematic universe.
I am.
Initial response. Tell me what you think of the third one. It's more of the Age of Ultron of the It's Alive movies, huh?
What I wanted it to be,
Yeah.
the idea of it, way better than what it actually was.
I do think there was some funny ass shit in it, but it was also some parts that's like a little dragging.
The story was insane. Our lead was confusing, to say the least. At moments, I thought he was doing a great job, and at other moments, I thought he couldn't act at all. I don't know what he was going for.
You're talking about...
scene to scene.
All right. It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive from 1987.
Island of the Alive means you'd think you'd be on the island some more than we were.
You wanted it more.
I wanted, like, Lord of the Flies, It's Alive children. I wanted, like, to see where they live, creating their own little society, which they imply that a little because there's, like, a couple and a baby.
This movie was made 9 years after its previous one.
Yeah.
Directed and written by Larry Cohen, starring Michael Moriarty and Karen Black, both prolific actors in their day. Karen Black known for being in a lot of B movies, considered a scream queen. Michael Moriarty been in a lot of B movies himself. He was in Troll. He was in another Larry Cohen movie called The Stuff. And they're prolific actors across the board, especially Karen Black.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, they are kind of known for these kind of movies, even though when you put their whole career together, they're all over the place.
Also, the policeman is the through line. He's
Yes.
been in all three of these, but there were even some moments in this where he was bananas. The beginning of this movie, I thought, was fantastic.
We start with a delivery.
So strong.
Yeah, and it's bloody as hell. A lady's giving birth in the back of a cab.
Yeah.
And this thing is killing, and they know what's going on. It's like, it's one of them,
Yeah,
and they
this cop's,
shoot
like,
the
trying to help.
baby in there. And then we open into a courtroom scene. I'm pretty cool with the whole start of the movie.
I thought that was amazing.
Where Michael Moriarty, he's arguing to not have his baby killed because the system here is established that they just kill these babies. So they're going to court, and he's trying to save his child, but he's also afraid of his child, and they have him approach it was real hard because, with the YouTube version, and you can hear it on the podcast too, is that I want to, like, incorporate images and clips, that are a few. And for most popular movies, you can go to YouTube, it'll be like, here's this scene, here's this scene.
Yeah.
For the last two It's Alive movies, it's hard. Like, Shout Factory provided us maybe one scene.
Crazy.
That I can use. But other than that, I'm going to have to rely on, images.
Yeah.
Because there was parts where he's talking to his baby in a cage in the courtroom, and he's like, these assholes are going to win if you don't calm down.
Yeah.
And then there's also that dinner party scene where he kind of cracks, like he's a little off, and he starts making all these jokes and stuff. And I wanted to cut these jokes, but, like, I can't find this movie.
Yeah, the thing that was so the thing about him is he was an actor in the movie.
Right.
He was an actor, and then his wife had one of these babies.
Right, Karen Black.
And he became...
His name is Jarvis.
Jarvis. What happens a lot in a movement, right, is you kind of identify one person to kind of do the thing first so that you can sue, right? Because they say to him at one point, they're going to bring your baby in and you can't be afraid. And he's like, look, I don't want it to die, but also I'm scared shitless of this child. Like, it's not like he was like, I want to take this baby home and raise it. He was just kind of the person who stood up and went, we shouldn't be murdering. And he was like an actual parent who was willing to say that. And so he became the poster child for this whole movement to not kill these children. Ended up, they only saved 5 babies.
Yeah, I guess it started to slow down, as I understand it.
And then eventually stopped.
Now, the images of this kid, this is the first time in which we get...
I don't like this baby version.
You don't like the stop motion Ray Harryhausen? I like stop motion.
I do like stop motion. It's not that I didn't like the stop motion. The babies looked very different from how they did in the first 2, even though I know we didn't get full looks at them. But they were like little muscle men. It was weird in this. They were little muscle men.
Well, you didn't get the whole look in the other ones. You get the top of their head poking up from the other side of a log.
I don't care.
It's
the bits of their
puppet.
Face that you saw, though, there was an adorableness to it.
It's the same face, right?
I mean, I guess. I feel like it looked
when you get
more like a penis in
it's
this
still,
one.
It's still puppet because you're seeing all the veins in their little muscle bodies. Mm-hmm. When you see their faces, it still is kind of classic style, at least when they're little.
I guess when I imagined them in the first 2, obviously, they still looked like babies with like those faces and hands. And then when I saw this little weirdly muscular, tiny body, it threw
toddler.
Me off.
I guess they just were intent on just showing the whole body of this time around.
I guess, but you're right. Like, him talking to the baby was so interesting because, yeah, he was like, these assholes, like, you can't be mad. Like, they're gonna win. Like, they're gonna be right. Like, this child understands what's happening.
He takes the thing out.
Yeah.
No,
like,
he doesn't take...
It breaks its way out.
It gets mad, and it rips open the bars of this thing and jumps on like it's about to kill the judge, and then he calms it down.
He touches it, and he says, don't do this.
And then the judge is like touched, and he's like, we're not killing these babies.
Crying.
We're not killing these babies.
Exactly. It's like, this is just a scared baby. But listen, it is a scared baby that is stronger than 10 men.
The verdict is essentially, by the time the trial is all said and done, is to stick these... We're not going to kill them. Let's just dump them on an island and leave them.
Yeah, and seemingly...
The original Island Boys.
Cause I'm an island boy, and I've been trying to make... Oh, I'm an island boy. I'm a just island boy.
Flew over and dropped cages onto the beach and went away.
Have you heard of that song, Island Boys? Those dudes covered in tattoos singing on a TikTok. I'm an island boy.
No.
I'm a just island boy. I'm gonna get key white grind. You're gonna keep that gun.
You somehow missed this?
I don't do TikToks.
I mean, that shit shows up everywhere.
I don't know, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
I be just staring at the sun. I'm just out full gazing. I'm like, pull where I'm staying. They're like, you wanna be famous? I'm trying to be out the greatest. I'm
like it could have showed up on a reel or something.
I don't know. Not
Okay.
for mine. Maybe
Well,
not my algorithm.
These are the original Island Boys.
Okay.
Florida boy. It got real damn tropic. I'm like the damn on the topic.
Maybe.
If they'd had a band, that would have been cool.
Yeah, they should have had like a band like the Partridge Family does or something.
It's just that what made me crazy is that yeah, like they just dumped them and they're just babies that are supposed to just like survive on this island. They didn't set them up with like even little houses. Listen, you're laughing at me, but they came out of vaginas. They're humans. They're maybe mutated or evolved. But, like, you just dump some babies on the beach of an island? How is that helping them? You're still, like, kind of killing them, theoretically. Like, these babies don't die, but they could have.
I mean, we've sat through a couple of these movies where these things are surviving in the forests alone and running across cities
But they shouldn't
and towns.
have to. That's because they're running and they're scared, Bobby. Give them clothes. This is the other thing. Even in the courtroom, they didn't put a diaper or clothes on those babies still.
There should have been like filth.
Why don't they put clothes on these children?
They should have had this thing projectile
Larry
shitting.
Cohen.
They should have had this thing projectile shitting out of its cage.
I mean, it would have happened. Also, I did really love at the very beginning, the woman who was giving birth in the cab, she actually at one point was like, I shouldn't have had this baby, which is kind of I feel like, the whole theme of all of these is don't have children.
Yeah.
You know?
So, it's over. Michael Moriarty goes and confronts his ex-wife, but she's working at some place your parents like to eat in Florida.
Vale, yeah.
So she's like, it's over. He hooks up with a lady on a boardwalk.
Yeah.
And they pretty much get to third base until she realizes that he's the guy that had the mutant baby. and then she freaks the fuck out on him. He decides to write a book about his experience.
Yeah, but what did she say where she was like, people think I'm dumb, but I have cable or something? Like, I know what's up.
The judge that sentences the babies to go to the island dies, and someone else takes over who's more into studying the babies.
This asshole doctor.
The legal process here, even for a flawed legal system that we really live in, is very strange. They recruit Moriarty, or Jarvis, as played by Moriarty.
They send the cop to recruit him.
And the cop that's been in all 3 movies. They get a whole team of people, including a doctor who gets very seasick, and some lady who is just there. And
very angry.
They're like, okay, let's go study these things. It's about 5 years. Now, keep in mind, we've just sat through 2 movies where they're less than a year old, like ripping people apart.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, do you want to go to this island?
Yeah.
Including a cop who's seen all these dead bodies.
Yeah, he's the expert.
They want Jarvis to go because they think he can calm them. But let's go to this island where they're 5 years old now and study them.
And in the second one, we know that the guy was like, the rate that they're maturing, they're basically going to be fully grown by 6. So you have to imagine if you're paying attention to any of this that's already been happening, they're grown now. They're not 5-year-olds. Yeah. As we would think of a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Also, they're prepared to take a couple of guns, but a bunch of tranquilizers. Here's the other thing. Even when they were infants, still in the womb, it was hard to sedate them.
Yeah.
That's why that one doctor got mauled in the van, even though they were like so prepared, because they gave the baby a shot before it came out and it still wasn't knocked out.
Now, Jarvis seems to be a little screw loosed
yes.
since this whole incident. So you can kind of understand why maybe he wouldn't give a fuck and want to go. But everyone else is making like the dumbest decision.
Yeah.
But we are also introduced to these things on the island when a bunch of hunters go there.
This pissed me off.
And they work for whatever pharmaceutical company or whatever. They work for some company where they want to make sure they're dead so they can't be studied.
That guy was like the owner. He must have been the one that was like leading the expedition because he got his friends to say like, oh yeah, we're going to go hunting.
And we didn't
tell them what they were hunting.
And we get some pretty great gore here as, of course, these babies shred these motherfuckers.
Scotty! 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 You wanted him, you got him! Hell is that?
And they're missing arms, and
they
hijack the helicopter, and it blows up in the air. It's pretty.
And this is when they're still babies.
It's actually pretty fun.
And in a throwaway line, we find out what caused the whole thing, which is this company had these products that essentially they were like, we have to kill these babies because if they do more testing, they'll figure out it was us. And we just need to kill these babies, lay low for like 5 years, and then we can start selling that shit again.
Well, in the first one...
Make this start all over.
In the first one, they had that guy who works for that corporation pay the cop.
Right. To be like, let's not...
So I guess it's... But they're also positing, like, is this the next stage of human evolution? X-Men. So it's either one thing or the other, or at least one thing causes the...
Well, and it stopped when that stuff got out of the market. No more babies were born.
That's true.
These were the last babies.
So they're not actually X-Men.
They're not X-Men.
They're just mutants.
Yeah.
But this product created a whole new species of Homo
These
sapiens.
Babies have birth defects.
Yeah, the crew, very leisurely do we make our way to this island. They're just shooting on this
Singing
yacht.
songs.
Yeah, it got kind of boring. There's like a 3-minute scene where they're explaining navigation.
Jarvis keeps hitting on the woman.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny because she was so annoyed by it.
So they make it to the island, and of course the doctor who has seasick the whole time is like, I'm gonna go bathe in this waterfall. And we see them, and they're much bigger, but we don't see their whole bodies. We see them more later. And some get tranked, and some... I mean, it's a shit show, of course, as you would expect, because this is the dumbest idea ever.
It all happens very fast, as you would also expect.
So they're all getting shredded, and that lady dies in a very dramatic way. You see it in the trailer. She's going, But it's pretty cool how, the thing claws it. Like, this movie's like the bloodiest of the three. It is the
bloodiest. And Jarvis is like trying to save them. He's actually telling them, hey, the assholes are here and they want to get you. Like, go hide. Get the fuck out of here. So
Jarvis and the cop are pretty much the only people left alive. They take their little boat and they go back to the yacht. And when they get on the boat, they realize that there are things on there.
The whole crew is dead.
The whole crew is dead, and they swam out to the boat. So the cop jumps off the boat and goes back to the island. He's stranded. We never see him again.
He's just like Swiss Family Robinson on that island now because there's no babies on the island. They're all on the yacht.
I thought for sure one more was going to be there to kill him, but they didn't show him getting shredded.
There were supposed to be 5. Yeah. Were there 5? There were only 3 by the end, but I think a couple of them did get killed.
I think there were 3 by the time they made it to Florida. So Jarvis is on this boat with them. They're trying to sail back to Florida. And Jarvis is like, they're pulling the bodies that are left down into the ship, and I guess they're eating the bodies.
Must be.
They've also given birth to another one. And Jarvis is talking about how they seem to communicate telepathically. They seem to understand him.
He's also communicating in like a captain's log way.
And one of them is his son.
Yes.
He starts narrating how he's worried that once the bodies are all gone, that they're going to be looking at him. And he knows that his son is keeping them at bay the best he can. His son throws a door overboard and then grabs him and throws him overboard to have him float off because he knows, the son probably can't save him from the others. But they continue to fuck off to Florida, and he fucking shipwrecks and makes his way into Cuba where he gets detained, and they're setting this up like he's going to be interrogated by Fidel Castro
They're like,
himself.
We want to know all of your CIA connections, and he's like, I'm just the dad of the monster.
Yeah, I'm just the monster dad. You got to get me back to Florida.
Florida boy.
So we cut to that, and the monsters are starting to arrive. And it's 5 years later since we saw Karen Black, and she's got this shitty boyfriend or whatever. But the things are homing in on her.
Yes.
Because it's at least one of them's mother, and they've got a baby. So it's like this whole thing where these like movie punks, these B-movie punks are harassing people, and then they're getting killed, and then cops start to swarm all this shit. And then my favorite part of this movie is that Jarvis arrives with a couple of Cubans
on like a little boat,
and they have this conversation that you figure that they would have while they're on the boat ride. Yeah. But he goes, but this is definitely a Larry Cohen thing as well that I thought was very funny.
Yes.
Jarvis is like, why are you guys being so good to me and helping me out? Like you're communists. We're human beings, man. Y'all aren't so bad. We should tell people. It's like, they'll never believe you. And then he like shakes the hands of the Cubans, and they're like, good luck.
They give him a gun.
Yeah.
And he goes, this is crazy, like a Cuban giving an American a gun, and the other guy goes, well, it's a Russian gun.
Karen Black's character goes back to the hotel, and they're homing in on her. Mm-hmm. And they find her. They also kill her shitty boyfriend.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, because this is kind of all wild and everywhere, Jarvis ends up on the roof where Karen is trying to get away from them. And they're all on the roof. Meanwhile, police are converging, and these things are grown.
And the mommy's breastfeeding the baby.
Yeah, the mommy's breastfeeding the baby. And then there's a commentary because the cops shoot one under the boardwalk after it shreds some punk characters. And they notice that it looks sick.
Has like a rash, they say.
Has a rash. So they quarantine some of the cops who've been in contact with him. But then we go to Jarvis and Karen Black on the roof with the other two, and they're not being attacked. And they realize that the big ones have measles, and it's killing them. And they want to give the baby to Karen Black. She's the grandma of their baby,
and
even though she gave birth to this thing 5 years ago.
Well, and we've seen through all 3 movies, there is a through line where the dads kind of fuck it up always, and the babies always want their mothers.
Yeah.
The babies always want the mothers. So it makes sense that they would be like, oh, she can save us.
Yeah.
Or she can save the baby.
So the 2 adults that had the baby, one of which being Jarvis's and Karen Black's son, dies. Mm-hmm. And then there's one that's just standing on the roof, like watching guard, and all these cops converge, and it starts throwing them off the roof and shit in a very B-movie way. It's kind of like wrestling until it finally succumbs to all the
yelling.
Yeah.
Like it sounds so bad.
And it finally succumbs to the gunshots. and it dies. But then they manage to escape with the baby.
And steal a car.
Their grandbaby. And they steal a car. Why not take the car of the shitty asshole boyfriend who's dead? Because at least no one's going to go look for that immediately.
I thought they were doing that at first.
And then they drive, and then they just start manically laughing because they got no money. They got no place to go. And
They're in a stolen car.
They have a mutant grandbaby that they're raising. And the movie ends on them just Jarvis and Michael Moriarty and Karen Black just cackling. And that's the end of the It's Alive trilogy by Larry Cohen. It's got some great humorous moments, but it definitely is maybe the weakest of the three.
Yeah.
I think that whole getting to the island thing, like that crew going to the island, it was just like dumb. Like they made the worst fucking decision. And then of course it goes exactly how you think it would. And maybe you're right. Maybe we could have used more island butchering, more island savagery.
I wanted to see them living on the island before the people came and they had to turn savage.
Yeah.
Like, they were a family, these babies. I want to see that just for a minute. Let me see their house.
Like a David
Where
Attenborough.
do they live?
Like some David Attenborough shit where we're just watching them thrive in this environment.
Also, I really wanted their baby to be normal.
When did they get the measles? They must have got the measles when they hit that boat.
Well, and
because they weren't getting the measles on the island.
Well, they got the measles from the people.
The scuba divers. There were scuba divers coming.
And we didn't actually see them ever, but there had been some scuba divers and probably them. But then there's also that like commentary of, people coming in and, giving diseases to a society or a culture who like has not been exposed to those. They talk about inoculation early in this. And again, at the end, like they talk about vaccines and things a little bit in this movie. So it really made me think of like the indigenous people getting fucking smallpox from the whites.
I'm sure there's a little small thing there.
I'm sure.
But yeah.
From the whites.
Europeans, right?
Europeans.
Straight to video, straight to your heart. It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive.
Yeah.
We're going to rate it. You give it 1 through 5. I'm going to give it 1 through 5. Combined for best out of 10.
I wanted to love this movie. A 1.5.
Wow, you went that low. Wow.
I was very upset.
I think the shaking hands with the Cubans, I will give it a 2.25.
Okay.
Just under mid, but entertaining enough to keep it above a 2, I think. There it is. Look, we only have 3 D-tier movies, and It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive. Oh, I forgot to put Larry Cohen's name in there. Is number 1 for our D-tier movies. Sounds about right. It seems like online it averages around our similar score. So
fair.
And there you go. Check the show notes and links and other places to find us. And let us know what you think of It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive. I was very hard to find scenes to play on the show. So the reality is a lot of people, unless you're really into like deep cut B-movie horror, have probably not seen this movie. But
so crazy.
But yeah, what do you think about it? Are you into it? Like and subscribe. Leave us a comment saying anything you want. Maybe shoot out some requests for movies we might discuss later in the year. Towards the end. That said, we're going to go. And God save the children.
Death to all traitors.